if there were neighbors and others who came out to help this person, that is just an example of Minnesota being a place where we help our neighbors. And we are clear that the ICE agents have been coming here, and there's over 2,000 of them. And they've been attacking and terrorizing our state. So, yes, neighbors will come out and be helpful. I'm not certain if they had brooms or a shovel. That is to be further investigated.
If they did, in fact, have some sort of weapons to use to attack the ICE officer, would that change your opinion of whatever unfolded next?
Actually, no, right? Because
you know, we really are at the point where ICE could shoot anybody for any reason under any circumstances. And no matter how justified, left-wingers in Minneapolis will go out and protest about it. You know, ICE could have shot Osama bin Laden and you'd see protests in the streets in favor of Osama bin Laden. ICE could have raided the Führer bunker in 1945 and taken out Hitler, and you'd see people out in the streets right now saying, he was a family man. He loved dogs and he was a woke hippie vegetarian. Adolf Hitler. Like, that's actually the point that we're at. And we know this because every single time they protest, these circumstances are only a slight exaggeration as to what I'm describing here, right? This is actually what they believe. Apparently, it should have been Renee Good's human right to be able to run over an ICE agent with her vehicle. And as of tonight, we just saw a brand new ICE-related shooting in Minneapolis. This time it took place when ICE agents were doing a targeted raid against a Venezuelan illegal alien who already had a warrant out for his immigration arrest. And apparently this lunatic tried to assault the ICE agents with his shovel. The ICE agent shot him in the leg, which, by the way, BLM, that's what you claim that police officers need to be doing, right? Why don't they just shoot him in the leg as if that's how things really work? But in this case, ICE followed exactly what you wanted them to do. And as you could expect, we're still seeing massive protests and violent ones out tonight in the streets. We even have insane communists calling for violent retaliation against ICE agents, although I guess they're already doing that as we speak. But anyways, we'll bring you this full coverage here today. I also do want to show you what Minnesota Governor Tim Walz is saying about it, because we have yet another example. This self-proclaimed knucklehead, and a different word starting with R if we want to be honest with ourselves, while claiming that he condemns political violence and he doesn't want people to give the Trump administration a reason, simultaneously is egging on all of these wannabe woke TikTok activists who are harassing ICE in the streets and oftentimes endangering themselves and others in the process. We'll talk about all of it, guys. First, though, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. We greatly appreciate the support, and it also ensures that you can stay up to date with all of our latest news and coverage. And that said, here are the details again as of tonight. Another ICE-involved shooting in Minneapolis that is drawing protests and criticism out in the streets. Take a listen as to why.
All right, this is a Fox News alert. This breaking just as we're coming on the air tonight. We have learned that there was an ICE-involved shooting in Minneapolis. We go live to Alexis McAdams. She is live on the ground with the details. Alexis, I've just been looking at these images that we're just getting a hold of now, and we'll keep them up for our audience to see. It looks like things are, spiraling out of control very quickly there.
Well, Sean, that's the thing, is it ebbs and flows. So 1 minute, there's a small protest at the federal building. The next minute, these people with whistles and an agenda show up to these different sites across the city. That's what DHS has been saying. What we know right now from our colleague Bill Malugin, who just got off the phone with his federal sources, Sean, is that a man who was a target of an ICE operation from Venezuela, who ICE says was in the country illegally, was a target in this operation here in Minnesota. So they go to the door. That's when they say this Venezuelan migrant held up a shovel, tried to assault one of their agents. And you can hear those chants there in the background as protesters show up. That's when they say use the shovel to try and assault the agent. Shots were fired. This Venezuelan teen, we're told, was shot in the leg, expected to be okay. Bill Malugin telling me there's actually a picture that a source texted him of this guy on a stretcher smiling, kind of giving a thumbs up as he's taken away to the hospital. So we'll get more on what's going on there at the scene. But it's become aggressive here. And I saw it today when I was on the ground with law enforcement here, with ICE agents here in Minnesota. It's something we've been keeping an eye on as it continues to grow. Plus, you can see the protesters are continuing to erupt here with anger. But when you talk to ICE agents, they say that they're being doxxed, they're being tracked, and they're being targeted here. We saw it before they even got out of the car today at some of these crime scenes. These people were out notifying law enforcement. Take a look at this. And then also, we can tell you that the tactic, though, is not new here in the streets of Minneapolis. It's been rampant. Border czar Tom Homan telling Fox earlier the White House is actually looking into who these protesters you see on your screen are.
Yeah, so here we have another extremely straightforward case. What else can I say? A shovel, much like a baseball bat, may not be built to be a deadly weapon, but it absolutely can be. Needless to say, you get knocked in the head with that, you can be unconscious, and then especially if he keeps on beating you, that you're talking about major brain trauma, and yes, very potential death. That is absolutely possible. And so, if someone is trying to assault you with a shovel, they are, of course, legally, and again, I say even just logically here, right, using a deadly weapon that is an imminent threat to your life. The ICE agent, once again here, acts in self-defense. And by the way, I would point out, he did exactly what BLM says he should do, right? Just shot the guy here in the leg. Now, I'd like to point out, very likely that was even done for political reasons. After all, it's not necessarily the safest thing to do if you are the law enforcement officer in that case. And by the way, just because you get shot in the leg doesn't mean you're going to survive. If you hit the artery there, it can be actually much more fatal than another part of the body. But fine, that's what leftists want to do. And then, of course, here they are now tonight, protesting and getting extremely violent over that. Not to mention, by the way, who are they in this case defending? Obviously an illegal alien, but on top of that, right, an illegal alien who was of some type of priority target for ICE, and it does appear that it was a fighting age male here. So we don't have these details yet, but if I were to take a wild guess, right, I don't think I'm exactly outside the stratosphere on this one. Very likely was someone affiliated with Tren de Aragua or otherwise a cartel-linked Latin American gang. So just keep that in mind. You know, much like many of the past left-wing martyrs they've seen, they always do pick the very best people. And then this is the scene out tonight in protest over an illegal alien criminal who got shot because he was trying to potentially murder or seriously harm an ICE agent, facing the action of self-defense. Check it out.
Even back in June, this same agent had been drugged behind a car for around, 50 yards. Inexcusable. That definitely goes into the factoring decision. And I can tell you that being an agent, I have said this on air many times. I lost my best friend in the line of duty. She did not have the chance to defend her life. No agent should have to take the risk of not going home alive because there are individuals who want to cause them harm. That is not the expectation of any federal agent or any law enforcement officer. And they are so accustomed, particularly in Minneapolis, we saw what happened post George Floyd, that they think, that law enforcement has no rights. That is not the case. They abide by the law. Law enforcement only pulls out their weapon when they absolutely have to, Sean, because they know that they will undergo major scrutiny in the aftermath, even if it is a clean shoot. No officer or agent wants to ever have to take somebody's life, but at the same time, they have the right to go home alive as well.
Yeah, but here's the thing to understand. We are dealing with domestic terrorists, and so it shouldn't be all that surprising that they likewise would defend another one of their domestic terrorists, because that's exactly what you're watching out there right now in the streets. Get this stereotype out of your head that it's still, these just naive woke hippies, they don't really know what they're talking about. No, they know exactly what they're talking about. They're fully accountable right now for the actions they're taking out in the streets, and they're saying publicly to everyone's face, yes, this is who we see as the good guys, right? Renee Good, the person who tries to run over and murder an ICE agent with their vehicle. We're going to protest on her behalf. We are Renee Good, as they're saying, and so they are, right? That's exactly the statement they're making to the world. And the same is true here with the Venezuelan illegal, right? The guy who tries to assault ICE agents with a blunt object and a deadly weapon. But apparently in this case, right, how dare ICE agents act in self-defense? Why are they protesting? Why are they upset? Because deep down, what they're really cheering for is they want these ICE agents to blank, right? You know what basically they want to have happen to them, and that's exactly what's going on. Now, it's worth noting that the scenes tonight or tomorrow morning, whenever you're watching this in Minneapolis, are just absolutely insane. We do have one case here where rioters apparently managed to break inside and loot an ICE vehicle. You can see here they tore it apart. They smashed windows and apparently even managed to get some of the documents inside and were reading it off to left-wing streamers who were there. I mean, just take a listen to a little snippet, I guess.
Just show the documents.
You want me to hold it, Becky? I don't have Will you hold it for
Yeah,
the
sure,
live
sure.
and give it back
Yeah,
to me?
yeah, of course.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. So just let me hold the microphone. You go through the paperwork, and you kind of describe.
Is it live?
Yeah.
In the original shooting that happened here tonight, the ICE agent vehicles that were parked on the street in the shooting, they had to leave their cars behind because they got surrounded by protesters. One of the ICE agent vehicles got broken into, and I found this paperwork. It has a list with FBI operation info.
Yeah, so we're not going to play the rest of that video for obvious reasons, but she basically goes on here to read the document. I'm not here to be an accomplice in what could potentially be a serious federal crime that this streamer, thinking they're just some type of activist, could be committing. And certainly the rioters and terrorists who broke into the vehicle should be arrested and should face the highest of charges. They should be in prison for a very long time, although considering how this stuff seems to go sometimes, don't be surprised if some woke judge just lets them out of jail, right? But that's, of course, the issue. Is you have to question, first of all, why we're not arresting these people at higher rates, okay? But that also kind of leads into my second point, how it is that these situations are being allowed to happen in the first place. To me, that's deeply unacceptable, right? How is the ICE security system even that lax to where they could be in this situation where a mob of domestic terrorists manages to drive them out of their vehicle? That shouldn't happen because these people should not even be allowed to get all that close, okay? I'm sick and tired of watching this crap, by the way. Sick and tired of watching for several different days now. Every time ICE drives a car anywhere in Minneapolis or tries to conduct any immigration raid, they essentially can't because these mobs of terrorists surround them, harass them, try to aid and abet the criminals. In this case, just directly, break into the cars, commit violence, etc., etc. They, by the way, do seem to be taking after their recent martyrs quite well, as you can clearly tell, because again, we're dealing here with domestic terrorists. But again, I say, what is the deal with this, right? Why do they not have more manpower? Where's the National Guard? Now, here's the issue, right? I totally understand. Oh, well, we can't deploy the National Guard because the judges are going to strike it down. And then Tim Walz, is basically practicing a policy where he refuses to use Minneapolis or state police to assist ICE because of the sanctuary city policy. At the same time, he refuses to deploy the National Guard because, of course, after all, what Tim Walz is cheering for is for this very violence to be happening against ICE. And while watching all of these if you don't believe me on that, right? While watching all of these tensions, while this violence is taking place in the streets, take a listen to what happens here today as Tim Walz actually encourages the behavior of Renee Good and many others like her who are doing this citizen activism type of thing. Actually, he actually said this. Take a listen.
Tonight, I want to share another way you can help. Witness. Help us establish a record of exactly what's happening in our communities. You have an absolute right to peacefully film ICE agents as they conduct these activities. So carry your phone with you at all times. And if you see these ICE agents in your neighborhood, take out that phone and hit record. Help us create a database of the atrocities against Minnesotans, not just to establish a record for posterity, but to bank evidence for future prosecution.
Oh, and on top of it, just casually threatens future prosecution for the ICE agents who are simply defending themselves and doing their jobs. But there you have it. Right now, he's egging it on. He's saying, I want to see more of this type of behavior where these random woke women or whatever try to get in the face of ICE and stop them. And he may, once again, use the excuse as he always does. Well, I'm just saying to peacefully film them. Nothing is being done wrong here, except I say, yeah, I mean, you have the right to film police from a distance, but you don't have a right to get in their face and impede them while they're making an arrest, which, of course, leftists in many cases do. You don't have a right to surround them as a mob with your car, right? But, of course, here's the thing about Tim Walz, and I pointed out before. He knows exactly what he's doing, right? He understands that these mobs of crazy leftists already are surrounding ICE all over the place, and he's basically saying quietly to them, go ahead, I cheer you on. As a matter of fact, I encourage you. Which, first of all, I'd like to point out, okay, to his supposedly own supporters is actually pretty sick, because what he's basically telling his own people is to actively endanger themselves and put themselves in potentially not just illegal, but also dangerous and compromising situations, because after all, okay, again, it is not safe to get in the middle of an active crime scene for obvious reasons, which is exactly what he's encouraging them to do. But secondly, let's not forget, These are the very same people who claim ICE is shooting peaceful protesters, they're shooting random American citizens for no reason. And what is Tim Walz now calling for? Hey, random liberals, just go up to the crazy gunmen who are like shooting everybody and then film them and call them a Nazi to their face. Doesn't really seem to make a whole lot of sense, right? As a matter of fact, I would have to argue, frankly, that if these liberals deep down were truly that terrified of ICE, or they really thought ICE was doing the Gestapo-like behavior that they claim, the boldness that they're engaging in here would not be there, right? They wouldn't have the guts, for instance, to go smash an ICE vehicle or try to charge them with a shovel or engage in all this different type of behavior. But that also goes back to the prior point here, okay? As I've been saying, look, at a certain point, you have to say as a federal government, and I understand there's all these legal and constitutional issues with it. Frankly, I don't care, okay? I'm sick and tired of living in a country where the supposed rule of law, even though there clearly is none, right, is used as a pretext, or federalism, all this stuff, right, as a pretext and a justification to basically allow left-wing domestic terrorists to commit terrorism in this country with impunity and get away with it every single time. What do I mean by that, right? I'm sick and tired of watching these videos where left-wing mobs, rioters, surround ICE agents. They're helping the criminals escape. We talked about that the other day. In this case, they're smashing into the ICE vehicle themselves, right? And clearly the ICE agents do not have enough manpower to back them up because there's no National Guard, right? Tired of watching that. So at what point do we say, damn the judges, damn whatever Tim Walz says, I don't want you using my National Guard, or it doesn't even have to be National Guard, right? Whatever manpower you need, at what point do we say as a country, this is just not going to happen, okay? We're not going to allow, Democrat states to be an open insurrection and sponsoring violence against the federal government. We're not going to allow mobs of left-wing terrorists to just break the law, and then the local government, because we have federalism, won't do anything about it, right? Because they have a woke prosecutor, that's their right. I'm just saying, right? As I said previously, maybe it's time to finally start being the authoritarians that they claim we are, but we're not, in the sense that, oops, we're actually going to enforce rule of law in this country, right? I don't know. And let me just close by stressing how important it is at some point that the feds finally do something about all of this, right? Start enforcing rule of law again, not just in our streets, but also in state governments as well. When you look at some of these Democrat politicians who are openly in insurrection against our federal government. Because if not, let me just remind everyone, these people are showing you exactly who they are, but if they ever take power again, they're not changing, right? So it needs to be made absolutely clear their behavior will not be tolerated, okay? Their politics, by the way, should not be tolerated in the United States of America. It's fundamentally terroristic what they're doing. And, again, imagine if the roles were reversed, right? I know conservatives say that a lot. But if right-wingers were out in the streets doing this type of stuff, you think they get away with it under a liberal administration? No, You think, by the way, a Democrat president would just accept right-wing insurrection in their streets because, some conservative judge said that I can't deploy the National Guard. Just think about that, right? But anyways, with that said, guys, let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.